Hey everyone, Ed from Get with the Pilgrim here. This particular episode is a different one. I toyed with the notion of whether or not to put this one out simply because it may be a little controversial. It may be some things that in this discussion that people don't really agree with, that think, it should be handled a little differently, and that's fine. That's fair. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. What I wanted to discuss is that, well, first of all, I'm going back to do the Camino Portuguese in September, as what has been talked about. I booked my ticket the other day, so I'm really excited about that. I'm going September 25th, and I will flash the route and talk about that potentially a little later. But what I wanted to mention is like I'm planning for it a little differently, preparing it for it a little differently. And what I mean by that is somewhat of a three-pronged approach. I'm getting more serious with my diet, for one, as far as making sure there's a caloric deficit there, getting away from bad habits, making sure that I'm meal prepping. Forever I'm getting stuck going out at work for lunch if I don't bring one, or just going out with friends, and we're getting into great weather and social times, so that's going to be a bit difficult. But you know, it's staying determined and staying on track is to get to your goals is the main thing here. So to that end, along with the proper diet and incorporating exercise, I just went out and got myself brand new Ultra Lone Peak 9s, which I'll probably end up using those on the Camino Portuguese. I'm excited to get those into play. I just bought them this weekend. Um, they're a great shoe. I've talked about the Ultra brand before and what I've walked in before and how it worked for me on the Camino Francés. It didn't give me a blister. I had proper support. It was fantastic all around. So that, works into the thing about exercise as far as the second prong to my three-prong approach. And the third being, and this is what I was talking about as far as being controversial, is I've decided after much research is to start taking a GLP-1 medication. And with that, I'm looking to obviously utilize that to help in weight loss. Um, so, like I said, after much research, deliberation, looking at what's going to be, a tool that I can use to help get me to a point where, I get some weight down in the Camino, the Camino becomes easier on myself. When I went previously on the Camino Frances in 2022, I was 50 years old and I was about 257 ish pounds. And I had worked out previously to that to get myself down to that point. And I lost weight while I was there on the Camino Frances. So now, 4 years later, a lot of bad habits, a lot of binge watching, a lot of dining out, a lot of, being fully seated at work at all times. I'm up considerably, and I'm up in the 295 region, 297, and that's a big number. And with that, and looking at about 5 months to go, not that I was pushed into this decision as to what can I do to rapidly lose weight. Um, I did the research and found that, like if I'm following the proper diet, caloric deficit, building the habits, getting the exercise, and using a GLP-1 medication as, another tool in the toolbox, then I could see some pretty decent results. Now, I started this last week, exactly a week ago, and I'm already down 10 pounds, but I understand a lot of that is water retention and inflammation, and it'll start to level out and, even taper off, if you will. I'm not looking to rapidly rush into upping dosages or anything like that. I want to make sure that I'm doing this properly. I am hydrating as much as possible. Electrolytes, fiber, protein, you name it. Like I said, I've done a lot of the research to, put me in a position where this is going to be a great asset to me in order to get me down, in a fashion that is good for me and good for my Camino experience. Because along with, carrying the weight, you're carrying a backpack too, right? So nobody wants to be, totally loaded or laden down with that much on a 350 kilometer plus journey. So that's kind of really what I wanted to say, and what I came on here to say was that's the plan. It's a different approach this time. Whereas before, yeah, I dieted and I, walked extensively and I got weight down in that respect. Here we are 4 years later, and whether 4 years, I'm sure it makes a difference in somebody my age. Whether that's attributed to, how sedentary I've been or the bad habits, be that as it may, it's where we are right now. And now I've decided to, you know, add GLP-1 to this journey of weight loss and building good habits. Now, the goal is for the next 16 weeks to take an injection, right? Because I don't want to be taking an injection with me to the Camino, nor do I really want to be on the medication while I'm having to have the menu del dia, and you know what food is like in Spain and Portugal, and of course having to say no to wine, or having going ahead and imbibing on some of the food while being on a GLP-1 medication and just having really bad gut trouble. Nobody wants that while you're traveling Camino. It wouldn't be good for anyone. So to that end, what I'm doing is when it comes to September, 16 weeks from now at the start, I'm going to start winding this down and stop taking the medication at that point so that it works itself out of my system, and then go and do the Camino really untethered as far as the medication goes. I'm probably leaning towards going back on it when I come back. I mean, chances are I'm going to see some pretty good results over the next 16 weeks, along with not just the medication. That's only one prong. There's also obviously proper diet and exercise. And obviously the goal here is to keep those things going so that the medication is not needed at some point. But if I'm seeing great results and I lose even some more weight on the Camino Portugués, then why not keep that going when I get back and go through the winter into that, along that same lines. So that's really kind of what I wanted to jump on here and talk about. This isn't, I'm not going to turn this into like, here's a 54-year-old guy doing, a GLP-1 medication, and it's not going to be a diet channel. This is very much about the Camino. I just wanted to be fully transparent in my preparation, and I may include, some reports or some updates in terms of, where I'm at, what I've lost, how the preparation is going, what I'm doing for diet or things like that, or how I'm avoiding having the odd beer this summer at a barbecue. So I mean, like, if you're in the same boat as I am, if you're roughly around the same age or not, or in the same kind of weight category, if you debated taking a GLP-1 medication to get ready for your Camino, you're someone who's doing it. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm being fully transparent about this. I understand that some people may have an opinion about it, just like, forget the drugs, lose the weight yourself. And that's fine. Like, everyone's entitled to their opinion. I've decided to go this route and see what that does for me. And I didn't want it to be something I don't discuss in this series, this vlog, and as I go preparing for the Camino Portugués. I just wanted to, as I said, be fully transparent with what I wanted to put across in terms of how I'm getting ready. If somebody else wanted to take some tips and tricks, in terms of how they might get ready for a Camino. So that's really about it. I plan on going forward with this. Like I said, I'm in week 1 right now. Things are looking good so far. And, next is going to be another couple videos about the gear I'm taking, the shoes I'll be using, the stuff that I wouldn't take, things that I have done before that have worked well, that I'll do again, things that I did before that did not work as well. And then overall videos on maybe the route, certain things. I'm really looking forward to the spiritual variant. I've seen a lot of great things about that particular alternative route. If you haven't checked that out, I would. If you're thinking about the Camino Portugués, I think you should include it. Has a fantastic boat ride in it as well. So yeah, that's really it for this particular video. Of course, if you have any questions or comments, opinions, please share them. Like I said, I'm an open book, and this is what I'm doing to prepare for this journey. Well, that was close. Almost lost my Osmo there. So this is what I'm doing to prepare for this journey. And, like I said, please throw a comment in below if you, have a question, or, just anything about the route, anything about the Camino Portugués, anything about, the GLP-1 medication. Sure. Go ahead and ask it. Like I said, I'm transparent. I'm an open book. I wanted everybody to know where I'm at in terms of planning and preparing for this journey. And I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be, in wherever I'm at when it comes to September, that's where I'll be as far as the weight. It's not going to stop me from going. It's not going to be a win or a loss project. It's just going to help me before I get there. And then I'm going to, obviously tackle the Camino Portugués just as I did the Camino Francés. I'll document it and you're welcome to follow along. I've got 2 Instagram channels that are on my bio here on YouTube that you can check out. They'll probably be a little more active than YouTube will be until I get back. But please, this is a great opportunity for community around the Camino de Santiago, and what people do to prepare, get ready, their gear, that sort of thing. And this is just another one of those videos. So again, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate the subscribers. Really appreciate the likes, and the back and forth and the conversations that I have with folks about the Camino. Um, Thanks for listening. And thank you for just like I said, tuning in and being with me for this journey. It's a great help to me as well. And if you're getting ready for your own Camino, buen Camino, and good luck to you. And we'll talk to you again soon. All right, take care. Bye.